Wow, this is, I'm just looking around and saying, oh my goodness, I'm really humbled, and really thank all of you for being here. There are people here from so many parts of my family, my friends, my neighbors, and so many. I'm just honored to have you here. It's just an honor to know that, I can't even really believe it's over, like, honestly. I looked at Sean and I said, oh, yeah, so we're trying to figure out how much money was really spent, and we think it was over $8 million on the Democratic side, almost $3 million from the independent candidate, and just a lot of money spent. Of course, we could put that to good use in our communities better than on a campaign, but that's the nature of elections today. So I just want to say thanks again to Sean, and Sean was one of those people I knew in my very first assembly district long ago, and I fell in love with Oswego County, and I got moved away into a long district that I was really just driving 3.5 hours each way from one end to the other. But I met a lot of great people, and it was very interesting, and I'm really just happy to say before I get started, I know he's here somewhere, but Brian Miller, from Oneida County legislator, is going to be taking my position, and he's here somewhere, I don't know where he is, but he'll serve in that position well. And
there he is.
I don't know how long he'll stay in the position, but I'm sure he's hoping someday when redistricting comes again that he'll be consolidated back, and maybe if he's lucky, he'll get Oswego County. But I want to also just say thank you to Trey for being here and coming back from the Marines. I know it's a lot for him to come back and forth. He's got to work. It's a real job. I thank Bob and Rose, my brother, we just saw here, Bob Tenney, who runs our family business, and his wife Rose and their children. And you saw my lovely niece with her beautiful voice, my niece Stacia and her boyfriend, and also my niece Mary Ann. Rose's mom, Peggy's here. Rose's brothers are here. Paul, JJ, Carol, his wife, are here. My nephew Kyle, who's a senior at Syracuse. So when you guys are all watching the Syracuse play, we're looking for Kyle playing the trumpet in the band. So he's part of the band. He's gotten some great opportunities there. And I just wanted to say thank you to Margot, who you just met as my chief of staff designee. It was a very tough search, and we're still obviously looking for employees. But Margot had sort of a special connection to me. First of all, she's an equestrian, which many of you may or may not know. That was what my passion was when I was younger, until I got involved in golf and curling and a lot of other sports and basketball. But she's an equestrian. She went to Skidmore College, and she's a graduate of Cornell Law School, just like my dad. And she's admitted to the New York bar, so she can speak the language of lawyers that I know people often say we think we're more important than everyone else as lawyers, but we are. Just kidding. No, she really brings a lot of insight into the job as someone who has experience in Washington, also experience in the private sector, which is going to be really important for our mission here. And she also knows about upstate New York. Just wanted to say quickly thank you to Karen. Karen has been with Karen Newton, who did the prayer. She's been with me since day one in the assembly. She's been a wonderful part of our campaign and a wonderful part of our assembly office. I know when you always get a friendly, smiling face on the phone, or person on the phone, it's Karen. She's always wonderful and professional and works very hard for us. She's going to be staying on with Brian for a little while, and I'm sure he's going to be helping us to keep our offices together and making sure that we're doing the best we can for our constituents. Hannah Andrews, who is hiding over here texting, she's probably doing some social media since Sean thinks that I'm involved in social media, but what he doesn't understand, unlike Donald Trump, they took my Twitter account away from me. So I am relegated to Facebook, which, by the way, for any of you out there, I've also taken, if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you can see my posts. If you're not a friend and you've been seeing my posts, you're no longer going to be able to see my posts unless you're my friend on my personal site. So that's just something that was instituted, not by me, but by my staff. Also, Samantha Lamarca is here running the cameras. She's one of the newest members of our staff, and she's going to be going on with us to Washington. You may remember her from days of radio. She used to be a voice, and she also was Sean Hannity's personal assistant back in the day for Fox. So, Judge Carol Loomis, we had a great campaign this year with her. She was just a real tiger. I just want to say thank you to her for coming down here. You can see there's kind of a women theme going on here. There's a lot of women get out here, a lot of firsts. I'm the first woman elected here. I'd like to say I'm the first Claudia ever elected to Congress, which, by the way, I am. Judge Carolunas and I went on an ATV ride in Oswego this summer, which was a blast. And if you see her in her robe and her fancy dress, you should see her on an ATV with a helmet, barreling through the mud and everything. She just was great, and congratulations to her also on being reelected. And I want to also do a special thank you to Dave Townsend, who you heard Sean mention earlier. I thank him sometimes, and then I blame him for getting me involved in politics. So, yeah, sometimes for better or worse, but he's been a great advice, a person who I can bounce ideas off of, a good friend. He provided wonderful service to our community, served as a police officer and also as a member of the assembly with his own style. But I also appreciate his love of dogs, and that's something that we love to have dogs in our life. Want to recognize all the elected officials here. I don't have a list in front of me, and I see a lot of you here, so I hope it suffices that I've seen some important people here. I see the mayor of Rome, Jackie Izzo, was here somewhere. She was here, and numerous other people. I honestly can't see you because I don't have my glasses on. But I just wanted to say to anyone who serves, I know there's a number of you in this room. I see the mayor of New Hartford right there, Mayor Ryan, who's been a wonderful supporter and great friend. It isn't easy to run for office, as you know, and it's definitely, you're not critics, you're in the arena as Teddy Roosevelt, our last Republican president from New York until next year. How about that? You can say it's been over 100 years since we've had a Republican president from New York, and we are going to have one next year, which is historic. So my favorite speech that my son had to memorize for the Naval Academy was the Man in the Arena speech. It was a citizenship in the Republic speech given by Teddy Roosevelt in 1910. And I just wanted to say it's worth noting that Teddy Roosevelt also got his political start in the state assembly. There you go. As a Republican. He was also known as a corruption fighter, so who knows where all this will lead. Again, thank you to, I know I'm not supposed to name names, but I do it anyway, so I apologize to some of you who I may not make my list here, but all of you are important in so many ways, but I just want to specifically say thank you to Sean Doyle, Mike Yearden, I'm not sure if he's here, and Roy Rehill from the Oswego County Republican Committee, and for Fred Beardsley, the chair, for their extra efforts in going out in the snowstorms and the windstorms. It was a blizzard, and getting me my first and only Republican county endorsement from Oswego County. So I want to say thank you to you. It means a lot to me since I've never been endorsed by the United County Republican Committee before a primary. So that meant a lot, and it really did help. I got my largest percentage of win in Oswego County, I believe in the primary and in the general election, so I greatly appreciate that. And I just want to say, there are a few people that are in this room. I see a couple of them. I'm not sure if Christine Jad is here, but I'm a member of the New Hartford Republican Committee, which I will be resigning soon. Dwayne Farr is my co-mate, or whatever we call ourselves, in our Ward 2, District 3 of the New Hartford Committee. But I want to say thank you to Christine, Byron Elias, and Don Backman, who I think is here, just for being the only 3 people, I believe, who have supported me in my 12 or 13 times before the United County Republican Committee. And even though the result wasn't what they had voted for, but I just wanted to say thank you for being with me no matter what, and knowing that in the end this is going to be the right thing. And also want to say thank you to Pete Sobel. He's our current United County Chair, who did support me in the committee. And also like to just take a moment, and I know some of them are here, I believe, but we have a new group of people who have joined the United County Republican Committee. There's probably about 20 of them, and I just want to recognize them along with, and join with Chairman Sobel that have come onto the committee because of the new movement that was brought on by our president. And we like to call them the deplorables. That's how we refer to them. And the deplorables, we sort of, the deplorables, were mostly led by Jim Zecco, a lifelong Democrat who's now going to be a Republican. Kim Trent, Barb Cavarata, I'm not sure who else is in here, but this group, along with a few others like Kevin Moreau and Michelle, and I'm looking at the Mario brothers, and Les Lebrecq, and there were a number of people that just, Gilda Ward and her husband Matt, people who were out in the snow, collecting signatures, doing everything. It was just, we really appreciate your support, and we know how hard it is, the work that you do, and it just, I want to say congratulations and welcome to those new members of the committee, who I think are going to add a new perspective and really bring us into the future. It's going to be exciting. Also, I want to say thank you to all the small businesses and the farms and all the efforts from all the business community you were very much behind me during this race, and I really appreciate your support. It's something as a small business owner I'm passionate about. I know I shared this story with Nick Matt from the Marie the other day, but I did have a couple very nice conversations with the speaker, Paul Ryan, and unfortunately he mentioned Genesee beer. And I said, no, that's not my district. It's Saranac, Utica Club. I just remember my dad my whole life. We always had, now you're going to laugh at this, my father who's a Supreme Court Justice, we always had a case of Utica Club in cans in the refrigerator. We don't drink out of cans that much anymore, but maybe Nick and Fred can elaborate on that. But we're definitely going to put Central New York on the map. We're going to put Binghamton on the map. Oh, by the way, the funny thing about the speaker, Paul Ryan, is when I said I'm from Central New York, his first thing he said was Binghamton. So we need to keep up with Binghamton, because Binghamton is so well known for IBM. But all of our region has lost so much, throughout the years, and we really want to bring it back through Rust Belt. But I want to again just say thank you to all of you, the volunteers. What a great year it's been, and just would like to take a moment here just to set the record straight, because I know so many of you know me, but so many of you don't. You've listened to the media accounts, and I hear these things about me on the radio, on the TV, and I'm like, that's not what I stand for. My friends know, but I thought I'd maybe tell you a little bit about who I really am, and some of the statements, by my opponents that are inaccurate or misleading. And philosophically, I am what is known, I like to say that I am what is known as a constitutional or a classical conservative. I've heard a lot of negatives about what I stand for, but what that really means is that I believe in upholding my oath to the Constitution, which you just saw me do as a ceremonial oath. As you know from the program, our real actual oath in the chamber occurs on January 3rd. But I take that seriously from both the federal and the state. And that often means supporting things that don't sound Republican or conservative, like public education, which is something I stand for and I'm very strongly behind, to help the needy or the senior citizens or people with special needs in our communities. Those are things that are preserved in our state constitution, and those are things that I stand for. It's the compassionate side of standing for our Constitution and the appropriate things that a state should do is care for its citizens. One of the conundrums that I find in the United States today is the notion that people who revere liberty and freedom are referred to as conservatives, people like me. Those who prefer central planning, big government solutions, now carry the misnomer of being known as liberals. And so it's funny how people think that they don't like liberals, but we're really the liberals. Libertarian comes from that. So we conservatives care about constitutional principles, basic rights, limited government, preserve freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and of course, the right to bear arms. Thank you, Remington Arms. We fight for bedrock principles such as the preservation of property rights, something very important that I've been fighting for not only as a member of State Assembly, but in my law practice. A preference for local government, not central planning. The importance of the roots of local governments, and there's a lot of local government officials in this room. And what you do is so important to the fabric of our communities. You are closest to the people and our representative government, and you're vitally important, and I'm going to try to make sure that I stick by you, and we are advancing your principles and your needs in Washington. Another thing is that I've been frustrating is the separation of powers principles. We know the importance of that as so-called liberal conservatives, we want to call us. We believe in states' rights that are protected by the 10th Amendment. Even those protections that don't go our way, sometimes the 10th Amendment preserves all the rights. We conservatives also believe that our constitutional republic, which it is, I always hear everyone talking about our democracy, we are a constitutional republic with democratic principles, provides the best way for all people from all walks of life to succeed. We believe that a free and dynamic economy provides the greatest opportunity to ensure prosperity for our nation, and that no one is forgotten. My approach to this position as a legislator has been genuine and bold advocacy for my constituents. In this role, I'm an advocate. That's what we do as representatives. We represent our districts, and we represent them strongly. And I believe in that, and that's why you see me using social media or whatever media I can get. It's interesting how the media is so much more interested in me now that I'm going to be a member of the Republican majority in Congress, as opposed to the minority in the Assembly. Sorry, Brian. My feeling is, people can say what they want about me. I know that I'm honest. I'm brutally honest at times. My son will attribute to that. I apologize. That's the Roberts gene coming out. We all have it. It's my grandmother, a tough old Welsh, Scottish. We don't even know what she is. We did Ancestry.com the other day and find out we're not really what we think we are. So we thought she was a tough old Welsh person, but now we think she's Scottish. So. I've heard, I'm practical, I'm common sense. I like to work with my colleagues. I have a lot of, you've heard me say it on the campaign trail. I heard people say, I've never had a bill passed. So I've had over 60 bills passed in the state legislature, and all with Democrats and working with Democratic colleagues. And I said this, I know, before, but I receive, just as many congratulations and messages, even today, from my Democratic colleagues in the Assembly. It's important that we work with our colleagues. We don't need to surrender our principles, but we need to work with our colleagues to be collaborative, to bring us together. And one thing that I think that I've learned in government is in order to achieve desirable outcomes, you have to be patient. I hope the president's going to be patient because it doesn't operate like a business, and I think people will soon find that out. We'd like to add more business common sense to it, but it doesn't actually work that way all the time. I'm just grateful, I hear all these people I don't get along, it's another thing. I have long-standing friendships from every corner of my life, from home, my neighbors. I lived on the same street for 52 years, except for when I was in law school. So I grew up across the street in my parents' home. I live in the current home that I've been in for 27 years. Was owned by Alexander Perney, our former congressman, who you can see on the back of the program. We have a funny picture of my family. That's me with my socks not off properly. Visiting Congress for my first time back in the 60s. Yeah, it's a long time ago. Friends from New Hartford High School, I see them around. From New Hartford High School, from Colgate, my alma mater, from my goddess friends. That's what my Colgate girlfriends and I call ourselves, the goddesses. In fact, we have some Godspring here. Those are goddesses' children. My son is a Godspring, and Will Roshan, who is in here somewhere, is his mother was my roommate at Colgate, so he's here and helped us on our campaign. So friends from law school in Cincinnati, and my connections in Cincinnati, which is kind of odd, but Cincinnati actually took over Norwich Pharmaceutical Company, which is where our company was based, so things tend to come full circle. Colleagues from the Bar Association, I see them around here, the state legislature, friends in government, and friends around who seem like family members from all across the globe. I have friends from the former Yugoslavia, Croatia, some of my Bosnian friends are here, my friends from Italy. I've had some travels, and I really cherish these relationships, and they've really kind of made me who I am today. And I'm really passionate about helping people and our community, and I've really done that. I've term limited myself in the state assembly, and I'm going to go do the same thing in the Congress. And I know the challenges, as Sean mentioned earlier, of being a single mother, of trying to run our family business, of dealing with my aging parents who weren't that easy on many occasions, and my brother will attest to that. It was tough, you know, having my father in a wheelchair for 7 years and him wanting to go to work was difficult. My mother had her own health issues, and she passed away last year, but I live across the street, so I'm the one that has to go and check on them every day. But it was tough and running our business in a very difficult place. So I think I bring a unique set of skills to my legal background, my experience running a division of our business. I maintain my business as our legal counsel. All of those things I'm going to have to give up in order to be a member of Congress, but I'm ready to do that. You know, it's not easy to run a small business anywhere in New York, and as I look around, I always thought this when I was running the Penny Saver. You know, Frank Sinatra had it wrong. You know, I think anyone can make it in New York City. I think if you can make it in Utica, Binghamton, the Mohawk Valley, Sherburne, you can make it anywhere. But, you know, and the small family-owned businesses, the family farms, they create up to 70% of the new jobs in our communities. And I've been fighting for our small business community, and I'm going to continue to crusade for them. People forget about who the small business community is. It's the pizza store, the mom and pop shop, the dentist, the doctor, all kinds of people who provide services for us, not just businesses that look like a business. I mean, it's everything, you know, this is the business of America, it's business. So unfortunately, when I went to Albany to try to defend the business community, I found that the state government likes cronyism and pay to play, and it was a pervasive part of what was happening in our state government, not recognizing how vitally important our small business community is. So it's not easy for me to stand up. It was a lot of personal sacrifice. As you see, I have a lot of enemies here and there. I like to say that, you know, the kind of people that everybody would want as enemies, though. It's not easy taking on the wealthiest and most corrupt people in the state, but I did it, and it was, you know, you see my district, I get to spend a lot of money on gas, which we don't get reimbursed for in the state, and it was a lot of personal injury to me. I mean, I really, people were very critical, and they still are. They really don't know. I mean, sometimes the media doesn't always get it right, but I knew it was right when Sheldon Silver bypassed our ethics rules back in 2012. This is before Pre-Ferrara got into the mix. And Sean mentioned that. I said, this isn't right. Here's a guy who's presiding over historic, supposedly, ethics rules, and he's bypassing them to do a secret payout deal. And so I stood up against him. And it was crazy in Albany. My next day back in Albany, lobbyists and people are coming up to me going, oh, they're going to cut your brake lines. You know, what are you doing? You're crazy. But I knew it was the right thing to do. And you know, in the end, you know, I stuck with it. I never gave Sheldon Silver a break. Though if you watch the primary election this year, I was watching the TV one night and I noticed there I was peering into a jail cell with my friend Sheldon Silver. So you know you can't trust the media sometimes, the commercials. You can't believe what you're seeing on the commercials. I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? In fact, I had all these flyers. I brought them into my colleagues to show them and say, look at me with Sheldon Silver. So you know what I did? I had people save them, so I framed them. I'm hoping still he's going to get to jail someday, but I don't know if that's going to happen. There's still some issues out there. You know, so the origin of the millions of dollars spent and you know, beating millionaires, it's actually, you know, it was very stressful at times because I knew that I didn't have the money, but I had to have my wits about me. I had to make sure I did my homework and I knew what was going on. And sometimes I'm just grateful that the people were able to see through this fog of advertising and you know, in spite of a lot of, you know, by the way, this congressional race, was one of the top races in the country. Everybody was watching it, except for most of our local media, was not even interested in the race. Honestly, it was amazing. Only a few outlets were really interested. So I find that, you know, I got to Congress, everybody already knew who I was. Oh, you won that big race in central New York. I was like, how do you know? Like, how do you know? It's all over the media. So I didn't even realize that. But it's you know, it's been interesting, you know, achieving results in government is not going to be easy, and it never is. And it's a lot of work, and it's going to be different this year, though, because I'm going into, for the first time, really a majority, in a long time, a majority Republican conference in the House and Senate. And as I said, the first Republican president from New York since 1909, or whenever it was that Teddy Roosevelt was served. And it indeed takes compromise, and I am a big believer in compromise. I have to do it all the time. I compromise a lot, especially Trey, and I compromise a lot on things. But there's a difference between compromise and surrender. We have to advance our principles before you surrender. If you're a lawyer in a case, you don't just surrender. You have to advance your client's cause before you compromise and settle. And I think it's really important that we continue to advance the cause of Central New York and Binghamton and this entire district and who we are and what we stand for. We have an historic opportunity to put ourselves on the map right now. We need to make this president recognize that we're here and that we need to have the support of the president, and we need him to come here and see what's going on with our communities. I've talked to the speaker. Thank you. As I said, I talked to Speaker Paul Ryan. I sat with him at the very first night of our orientation. It was a beautiful night in Statuary Hall, and I have to tell you this because it was like I still can't believe it. I went up and they said, "Oh, you're table one." I went, "Oh, I put my stuff down the table one." I always had my huge bag. I looked like Mary Poppins. You've seen this everywhere. I put my bag down and I looked and I saw my name, and then I looked next to it and it said, "The Speaker." I was like, "Oh, I'm at the speaker's table. I'm sitting next to the speaker." And of course, I talked to him all about our area and what we need to do, and he does want to come and visit. So let's get ourselves going and make sure that we're where we need to be. Again, as I said, it takes compromise. I'd like to take an honest assessment, figure out where we are, make a practical decision, apply my background, my real world solutions to things, not rubber stamp, not find a political solution that only helps politicians, something that actually helps us. I think of myself, and I know the media thinks of me differently, but I think of myself as actually a proactive problem solver. I genuinely seek to find the good and the special talents in all of us, no matter who we are. And I hope that I'm inspiring many more to come forward, serving government and our communities for the right reasons, for unity and for a chance to make us all prosperous. Young men, young women, people coming forward that are seeing that it doesn't matter how much money you have to run for office. It's really what your principles are. And expect that same adherence for me as we go on. The adherence to constitutional principles, strong advocacy for our community in the 22nd District and our new role. And as we continue onward together on our journey to uphold a sacred trust, a pact with the people to represent our values, our views, and our interests, not the special interests, we must restore and visit the vision of our founders back to the halls of government, true representative government for the people, of the people, by the people, with renewed hope of e pluribus unum, our national motto, which Trey said I have to explain, a lot of people won't know, out of many, one, and will once again be realized. And I think it is really important that that's who we are, the melting pot that's going to bring us all together on two principles, liberty and freedom and individual rights. We have a new president who brings a lot of hope to us for many who haven't had a voice, but he also has some fears for some people. His journey through politics sort of resembles my own. Don't be afraid. This is someone who's willing to take a risk, and as we've learned, is willing to listen. I'm thrilled and honored by the opportunity to represent our community. The president-elect has set an aggressive agenda for this year. He wants to repeal Obamacare. He wants to reignite our economy by reducing the size of government and the burden on taxpayers. He has promised to renegotiate trade agreements to bring our lost jobs and our wealth back to us. He pledges to return our national defense policy to the Reagan notion of peace through strength and to provide care and dignity to all who serve this great nation. As always, I'm going to seek your good counsel on all these issues as we surge ahead on this remarkable new path. And thank you once again for your presence here tonight and for your unwavering support of our community and our nation. And so thank you again to all of you. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you.